Well, hello, and happy Saturday afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great Saturday and a great weekend so far. My name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion, where I highlight, well, first, I like to say stories come in all shades, and I hired people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I love so well. Again, I want to welcome everybody to the show, and you know the drill. Make sure that you give a shout out. Let me know where you're tuning in from, so I can give you all the props on this show while I make sure that we are broadcast, even though StreamYard says that I'm broadcasting from all my channels. You know, I like to make sure that all the broadcasts are going well. But in the meantime, please make sure that you jump on and say hello. You can catch me each and every Saturday afternoon. Of course, this is Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on all my channels right here, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But you know, I always like to encourage everybody to, if they do happen to be tuning in from Facebook, make sure that you give StreamYard permission to pull your avatar so that I can, like I said, give you clear props and we can see your name and your comment so that you can engage. Again, if you are tuning in from Facebook or LinkedIn, I always encourage people to hop on over to my YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/Don Terrell, so you can give all my episodes a thumbs up, hit the bell notification, subscribe, so that you get notified of when the show goes live and all the great new content gets put up on the show or up on the channel. So always working to make the channel engaging and fun. So got a lot of great new things planned. Again, as you know, I've been kind of, I won't say leaking out, but just kind of keeping everybody updated about the new revamp of the show, how it's going, and I'm happy to say within the next 2 weeks we're going to be in the new studio. I like to say in the new studio because it's not a new show, but it's a complete revamp of the show. New intro, new graphics, and just been working extremely hard, as you can see, putting everything together. And like I said, it seems to have finally come together. So I'm super excited to unveil it for sure. With that, I think I see I am going good on LinkedIn here. Make sure Facebook is rocking and rolling. We are good to go, I think. I always like to make sure. Again, let me know how your week is going. And like I said, we will be ready to rock and roll here. All right. Oh, okay. We're good to go. So we are going to jump right into this. And I've been super excited and looking forward to having on my next guest. He's the first in this kind of space, voice actor. He is for animation and video games. And like I said, he's the first one that I've had on that's going to be talking about it. So I've been looking forward to, having him come on and jib jab with us here. All right. So with that, let's dive right into let me take this down. His story here. All right. Let's dive right in here. All right. Voice actor, my next guest is a voice actor living in California. He was born in Connecticut, lived in Florida most of his life before moving to California in 2014 with his cat. He first dabbled in voiceover and voice acting in 2016, 2017 for a now defunct YouTube commentary channel. What really got him into voiceover more was how in 2018 he had an idea for a follow-up to a cheesy horror. Is there, I'm pretty sure there's not just cheesy horror movies, but I like a good cheesy B-more horror movie. Cheesy horror story he had written back in 2016. This follow-up story, later named Tragedy Mansion, is what propelled him into the voiceover realm. He hired other voice actors to be part of the project, as well as began discovering all sorts of fun projects, such as Fallout New Vegas fan mods. This led him to seek out more voice actors on social media and connect with them, as well as begin taking classes and workshops, realizing that not only is voiceover fun, but it can be a career as well. Be surprised. You'd be surprised at the people that are doing a lot of voiceover work for sure. A lot of great actors as well doing voiceover work now. So with that, please, everybody, help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Mr. Robert Jonathan. Mr. Robert.
Hi, Don. Thank you so much.
Whoops. Sorry.
Oh, hi. There we go.
I always got to give a
Hi.
big shout out there. Welcome.
Thank you, Don. Thank you
Oh,
for
man.
the opportunity.
Appreciate you being here so much, Mr. Robert. Like I said, this has been something I've been looking forward to because I love, like I said, animation is kind of my first animation and cartoons, kind of my first love there.
Yes.
And so it's always fun kind of seeing just everything that goes involved. And voiceover and voice acting is a big thing. So we got a little backstory on you, but I want you to kind of fill in some of the, pre-early stuff of getting into voice acting.
Okay. Well, like you, I love like cartoons, animations, going way back into my childhood. Loved like after school, come home, watch like Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, whatever was on in that after school time frame. And I always thought that was so cool, but didn't expect to get anywhere from it. But that happens. I have a performance background. Like in high school, I did some drama and TV production, which sure enough, that would end up coming to be needed much later on. Like now when I dabbled into YouTube.
Yeah.
I worked at Universal in Orlando for a number of years, and you really start to realize, hey, wait a minute, this connects to this, connects to this, connects to this, because I worked at various rides, and you always have people who come on and do little spiels, not just the, hey, please remain seated. In some places, they have little like fun things you say periodically. You get on the microphone and you just say a little themed thing around the ride. At one particular ride, the Dudley Do-Right Ripsaw Falls, which is a log flume, they have a huge book full of silly little things. You just say things like, attention residents of Ripsaw Falls, if you see Snidely Whiplash, please contact the RCMP and don't take his, like whatever, like don't take his candy or whatever it is. There was always some sort of joke along the lines and a lot of like puns. And also when you're working at Universal, at each ride you embody a character, so that adds to the performance.
Yeah.
So it all kind of just culminates.
So I'm curious, like I said, because you kind of started getting into it around 2016, 2017. What did you kind of envision for yourself as far as before you started getting into voice acting? Was there a profession or kind of a avenue that you thought you might go down, or going through school and high school and you know afterwards?
Well, things got really weird. Initially, I was doing really well in high school with like graphics, graphic design, printing. I had even scored Rochester Institute of Technology in New York.
Okay.
I'd been accepted there to do like printing and other things like that's going to be really cool. But then the sticker price came. It was like 30,000 a year, and this is back in 1998. I'm
Yeah.
dating myself, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh,
It's a little
and
pricey.
yeah, that kind of dashed those hopes. And I eventually started working at Universal when I turned 18. And a few years while working at Universal, I met one of my coworkers who was going to school for massage therapy. And that ended up being the avenue I went down. Is I'm a massage therapist, been doing that for 15 years now.
Yeah.
So voiceover was not even an idea at the time. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be doing massage therapy for a while. And one of my friends did a little bit of voiceover for some Newgrounds games. I'm like, I want to do that. That seems so cool. But that just didn't happen until around the time I started messing
Yeah.
around with YouTube, and that was a lot of fun. And I even had one of my PlayStation friends say that he sees me getting into voice acting, and I'm like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Some
And
people, but see, some people just have a voice that lends to like radio
mhm,
or voice acting or voice characters. What's been because like you said, you're really starting to get more into it. What's
yes.
your process and through some of the workshops and classes that you've done so far? What's been uh kind of the process that's been kind of laid out with? I know you kind of have to dig into the character of who you're doing and things like that. How is your process for, really nailing down a character when you're doing a voice?
Well, a lot of it depends on how much information you get. Like if you have a picture of them, great. Like if they have wild hair, like that's like spiky and blue, like, okay, this probably has big energy. And if it says, and you read the descriptions of the characters, if you're not given that, which does happen, then again, you look back at what information you have and you try and build, okay, this person is like, if they're like really big and
Yeah,
buff, then you expect, yeah, you're gonna want to drop your voice, have a deeper voice, because they probably want to be big and booming. And you take what you got. Other times you just have to be like, okay, you take what your script is and you're like, okay, who am I talking to? Is it loud? Okay. And you just improv it if you can. And if you have improv experience, which I do,
all right.
that does help. Improv is really useful because then you can just, okay, this is gonna be a tough guy. All right. So how are you doing? Hey, hey, come here. Oh, okay, that's cool. You want to have the sausage? All right, here's a sausage, $5. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, like I said, it definitely helps having a background of some of the characters. Do you
Mhm.
prefer, and I guess you would like it. I guess the more information, the better. But do
Yes.
you kind of prefer to have kind of that uh, reins loose where you can kind of just riff on your own and not kind of have a background, or would you prefer to have some sort of framework to work from, whether it's a graphical image or whether it's a written story of background of the character?
It depends on the project, but overall, I do prefer having, like, the picture and the background so I can be like, "Okay, this led to this," so you can add some undertones, like, if someone had is from a rough upbringing, but they claw their way to success, they can be like, "Yeah, you understand? Do you understand what it took to get here?" and you have that little like waiver that if you don't have it, like, yeah, you understand what it took to get here versus the yeah, and you can get a little more physical because you're trying to really embody it, you become it, and
Yeah.
that's where it gets really fun. Some of the most fun auditions or characters are where you just go into it and full on.
Now I'm going to play guys. Like I said, he does some fun characters, and I'm on. Before we continue on, I want to play a little demo reel of some of the characters that he's played, so we can listen to them and just get a feel of some of the work that he's done so far. Let me make sure.
Delta Squadron, this is Scarlet Striker coming in hot. Stand by 6 and watch how Pro does it, boys. Steal the King's Ruby. Inspector, I'm truly speechless. I'd never do such a heinous act of thievery like this. Not on this sloppy, at least. I don't care if the food is store-bought, Gene. The Nelsons are expecting homemade apple pie, and by God, we are giving them the best homemade apple pie that will ever grace their taste buds. I know this may seem difficult, but don't rush yourself. Take your time and relax. I'm certain that you'll do great on this exam.
Some of Robert's great work there. You just said that it's really helpful to have kind of improvisational type of learning and
Yes.
kind of actor, acting, I guess, maybe learning as well. Does that really help? I mean, what kind of personalities or traits do you think makes a good voiceover person, in your opinion?
The ability to take direction and pivot if something changes just like that. If someone says, okay, slow it down a little bit, then you have to be ready to slow it down,
Yeah.
or just being ready to think on your feet at a moment's notice. Okay, your motivation instead of, say, being all angry is being more concerned, like, uh-oh, someone, like, you're about to lose your kid, say, versus a giant monster stealing it, versus you're about to lose your kid to the state taking them away. Huge difference, and you have to be like, okay, like, stop it, you! Versus for the monster versus, hey, come on, don't do this to me, man. Like, just those differences. If you get that in, if you're ready quick,
Yeah.
like for the first spot in the demo, the yeehaw that I did, I was given a like yeehaw, and like no, try it more like big. I can't remember how he said it, but there were I did like 4 or 5 different ones.
Yeah, it's very collaborative and very and a lot of takes, I guess. I've seen, and it's interesting because I love watching and people, like I said, if you really want to see all the work that goes into even a movie or animation, I highly suggest watching the making of or all the extra content they put on DVDs. It really does give you a full spectrum of the work that goes into just the hour movie or what did you see.
Yes, like you mentioned at the start of the show, Tragedy Mansion, which I had gotten into. When I had written that, I thought, oh, I'll have it done in like 3 months. No. That took almost a year to get it done because the amount of editing and editing and editing. And that's just for a silly little horror story. I've had made up little like, clips recently on my Instagram of like just acting out different cartoon theme songs.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I did was Danny Phantom. And I had this effect where I had my glasses off and I said the line, glowing green eyes, and my eyes glow green. That one effect for less than 2 seconds, I had to go frame by frame, editing each little piece to make it just look right. Not even perfect, just right. And that took like 2 days to get it done.
It's a lot. Like I said, it's funny because one of the guests, my past guest, Scott Christian Sava, who directed and wrote Animal Crackers, which is on Netflix.
Oh wow!
But he had, and we were talking about it, and actually, I was going to pull some of the videos that he had, or I was going to show some of the videos that he had sent me, but he sent me a few of the recording sessions with the actors, like Danny DeVito and some of the actors that played the characters. And it's just so interesting. Like I said, just the direction that voice actors take from, the recorder, the recording and the directors that, take after take after take, getting it right, moving forward. What is it that what about voice acting? Because a lot of people, you're not seen, which some people are cool with that, not being, you don't get the fame that like some like live actors get. What is it that really kind of pulls you in about doing voice acting work and for animation and video?
That I can be anything. Obviously I can only be a human so much, but in animations and video games I can be a dragon, a knight, an alien with like tentacles everywhere, a robot. I can be all sorts of things that you would never expect. I could be a blob. And that's fun. That is a lot of fun. You'd never expect it.
So do you feel like also a trait of voice acting is being kind of outgoing and kind of not losing that kind of childlike wonder about things? Because I remember, like I said, as a kid playing with my, toys and things like that, you just kind of come up with these voices of what you think the toys are and things like that, but not losing that kind of innocent, wonder about creating a world, creating a character, like you just said.
Yes, that definitely does help because you want to have that wonder of, and it's okay to use props. Like if you still have action figures, and you can have like Mr. I'm the general, and I blah, 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 blah. You can make those up. I used to have a huge collection of little toy like Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars, and those had personalities. Like I had one who looked like a robot, and he was the leader, and like I'm the leader, and I had another fast one like, "Yo man, what's up? How's it going?" Because he was the race car, or I had my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures, and while those had specific types, you could still play around within the world, and that's just about it. It's just having fun. Kind of makes me want to go out to like Target or somewhere, buy some toys and just like just play with them. Because why not?
Awesome. Well, if you had to pick a kind of dream character to kind of voice or dream thing, what kind of would it be for you?
I still want to be a dragon. I've always been fascinated with like the aesthetic and the mythos of dragons. So why not become just a big old dragon, or maybe just a baby dragon? Just anything. That would be so cool. That'd be a rollback. Yes, I was a dragon, and it was awesome.
Gotcha. So what have been some of the big takeaways that you've kind of learned through your classes and workshops that you've done? Obviously you learn a lot of kind of different things, but for you, what's been kind of the big takeaway in some of the things that you learned?
A lot of the things are, of course, just be willing to play. Whatever you get in the script, just have fun with it. Even if you get like a e-learning script or anything like that, then you still find a way to have fun with it, and just read it in different voices, even if it's not going to make sense for the role, because that's part of the fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you ever had obviously, like we were just talking, sometimes you have to do a lot of different iterations, or the director gives you, kind of direction and this and that. But have you ever had a character where it took a good while, or it took a little bit to kind of find that right voice for it?
Yes, and sometimes you just have to be like, okay, how do I do this? I had one that I was like an airline attendant, and I'm like, okay. And I thought back to all the times I've been on airlines. I'm like, okay, I think I had an idea, and I went with it and sent it to the director, and just got a response back from there.
Got you, got you, got you. Um, so moving forward, where do you? I mean, like I said, obviously, animation and you know movies are starting to really gain a lot of traction.
Mhm.
Kind of where do you envision the industry, particularly what you do, where it's kind of going, where you would like it to go, or do you enjoy doing more? Obviously, the more characters you do, but do you enjoy doing more children style animation, adult style animation, or is it the challenge for you of just whatever it is, just the challenge of finding that right voice?
For me, it's definitely more of the challenge of finding the right voice, because I'm okay with any of the animation styles, more for kids, more for adults. I tend to go more for the like adult animations, because that's what I tend to get cast for more.
Yeah,
But that's okay, because that's growing. Cartoons aren't just for kids.
no, no,
There's a big thing that is one of the trends is animation is for adults too. You
yeah,
can have your kids animation. You can have your adult animation like your Family Guy and whatnot, and that's going to be big. People want to watch cartoons at night? Sure. Adult Swim was popular, and now that's going to become even more. You're going to see that on your Netflixes and your Hulu. You're going to see more cartoons targeted animations targeting adults, and that's totally cool.
yeah, yeah. And actually, speaking of which, like I said, I'm I don't know if Disney has more of an adult, but definitely companies like Netflix or the newer, smaller ones have their kind of adult animations that they're putting out, and they're touching between, you know, older crowd and younger crowd. And like you said, it's not just for kids, adults, and just like comic books or
Mhm.
all the rest. It's not just kids, it's really an adult, because you get into some of the themes of what's being said. um Kind of, what were you, I mean, how were you as a child growing up? I mean, were you kind of, you know the type that really kind of got into his own world and kind of created his, like playing with your toys and creating things, or were you more studious? Because I've talked with a lot of, and you'd be surprised where a lot of people come from in the
Mhm.
industry. Some are, were engineers, and that suddenly made a turn animation wise. What were you like as a child growing up?
I of course made sure to take care of my grades first, get all those out of the way, and then it was whether I had played video games a lot and just got lost in the world, or if I wanted to take my action figures and have them have a little war, or set up my Hot Wheels cars, be like, okay, time to race, let's go in the living room, just that kind of stuff. I would even take like my stuffed animals, and sometimes they would pretend to have their own radio show or whatnot. Like, hey, today's guest is Mr. Cat, and I'm Mr. Dog, and they just have silly little things like that, and that was just so much fun.
Got you, got you. Well, I mean, do people kind of get what you do now, or is it hard to explain? kind of what you like doing, or how's your family, your parents think about, okay, because I know for me, like I said, I was in art graphics and stuff, like comics and cartoons, and wanted to be a comic strip artist. But, while my mother supported it, she didn't quite figure out how that would translate into, a job. Like most people, they think you can make a living doing this, and this is what, people do.
Well, like, okay, since I'm a massage therapist, I do, and people ask what is one of the things I do? I do, like, say I do voiceovers, and a lot of times they're like, "What?" They get confused, like, "What's that?" Like, like commercials, cartoons, and once I start explaining, they're like, "Oh, that you can do that? I thought you had to be in like a studio." Or like, these days, no, you can just be in a booth on your own in your home, or
Yeah,
and as long as you have a stable connection, you can do it.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
do it, and there's a huge demand for not only, like, of course, there's the professional level, there's a lot in the indie,
yeah,
upcoming, small, and that's where a lot of great traction is going on. That's where, like, if you're starting out, that's where you wanna go because there's so much cool stuff there, so much
yeah,
potential there.
yeah, yeah. You got, like you just said, you got a lot of um, animators, filmmakers, things like that that are creating their own content
Mhm.
and starting out small, and like you said, in that indie kind of space of really, utilizing voiceover work and voice actor work for sure. Um, where do you, obviously your thing is maybe getting into, bigger budget. Would you prefer bigger budget things, or I mean, kind of, where do you see your uh, journey going moving forward?
I can see definitely being in the indie sphere for a bit longer, especially with indie video games, because that seems to be something I like a lot more than the triple A's. Still love the triple A's. They're awesome. Just finished Cyberpunk 2077 last night, but I also
Cyberpunk.
finding so many indie games, little small gems that a lot are like the 8-bit style or 16-bit style from, Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I'm like, "Okay, love that immediately because I grew up with that." And some of those do have voiceover, and the fact that, hey, I can be a voice in a game that reminds me of my youth, yes. And it's always fun to connect with the indies because you also never know who's gonna start out just like a little YouTuber, a little studio here, who then years down the line becomes huge.
Huge. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they could be like, "Hey, I remember you. Come on, I got a character for you." And that's a lot of fun. Like, "Oh, cool. Let's have fun. Let's do this."
So do you find getting work now is a lot of referral, or do you like pound the pavement, reaching out to, like you said, indie game studios, or indie developers and things like that? How do you go about getting voice acting work?
It's a mix. I still use casting sites like Casting Call Club and Voices, but also I've been shifting less towards that and more towards the content marketing, the content creation, saying like, "Hey, here's some of the fun stuff I do," and getting in there, connecting with game developers, animators, and just talking to them, just being cool with them. Be like, "Hey, I see what you're doing. Love it." And then letting that build up and it come later. You can also do the self-marketing because even though that takes a long time, you're more likely to get like, "Hey, you do voices, right? Can I hear you?" Versus if you're out auditioning on the casting sites, then you're like, "Okay, I am one of how many?"
Yeah, yeah,
And then your odds go, "Okay, I'm 1 in 60." Whereas if you're communicating back and forth and it takes a long might take a long time, sure, but then you might only be competing with, say, 5 or 6, or you might get a or someone might get a referral, say, "Hey, try contact this person," and boom, you get a spot.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. I think a big thing is about building relationships and those type of connections with, like you said, game developers, YouTubers, independent animators that are putting projects together and really kind of building that relationship and letting them know, like you said, what you do and how you do it definitely goes a long way for sure.
Yes.
Sure. Everybody, again, if you're just jumping on, I'm on here with my friend, Mr. Robert Jonathan, the animation voice, video animation, and or video games and animation voice actor. We're going to take a quick little commercial break, and then we're going to come back and kind of talk about uh, diversity in the industry and kind of dive a little into that. So everybody, make sure that you hang on. We are going to take this quick little commercial break and be right back. And we are back with my guest, Mr. Robert Jonathan, the animation voice, video games and animation voiceover actor. Um, I'm curious. Like I said, we've had a lot of shifts. Uh, not on well, it kind of ripples down to everything, but in our space of what we're talking about, we have a lot of shifts socially. And I know when all the social things were kicking off, there were a lot of companies that were making that shift of getting actors and voiceover actors to voice characters that represented who they were talking. What are kind of your thoughts on that and the shift with getting more diverse voice actors and voice and characters to have voice?
It's a good thing because it gives more opportunities to people who might not have had them. And that's great because especially when you're casting authentically, because then they're like, hey, here's an opportunity that someone might not have had, and now they do, and that's great.
So have you approached, I mean, you do not only just, kind of non-human characters, but you do other, inanimate characters or animal characters and things like that. So how have you approached doing characters that are different ethnic races, and how do you approach going at voices like that?
For that, there's one factor is, okay, if I'm supposed to be like a stereotype, I'm usually gonna be like, nah, I don't know if I want to touch that.
Yeah,
But if I'm just like a doctor
yeah,
or an engineer or where it doesn't matter, then hey, whatever, go for it.
yeah, yeah. And I think, and that was kind of my thought as I was, putting together the, going through the interview and thinking about just voice acting as it pertains to different ethnic characters that I don't particularly have issue with it or so much. And it's not a deal breaker, but I think what, I think bothers most people is, like you just mentioned, the kind of characterization or stereotype that kind of plays into it. And it was something that kind of hit me. I know when, like I said, all of this started happening, Hank Azaria, who's a big voice actor and was doing the voice of Apu for The Simpsons. had stepped down and said he wasn't going to do that anymore. For you, like you said, it's a big factor, not not stereotyping or kind of falling into this kind of characterization. Do you see a lot more people of color and diverse backgrounds now starting to, come up and come across and get these parts now? Have in kind of as your circle starts to grow, have you started to see and come across more people from diverse backgrounds and people of color in voice or acting?
Oh, yes, I've seen a lot. I'm connected with a group called Voices of Color, and I just love seeing all their different successes. I'm seeing people get different roles. Like, hey, I got an anime role, and I'm whatever character. Like, dude, that is so awesome. Or, yes, that is great. I love seeing it because so many people are getting more opportunities.
Got you. Um, in kind of your space, what's been the biggest or what's been the best piece of advice that somebody's given you kind of in this journey that you're on that's kind of helped you along the way?
Just keep going. Well, there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of roles. You have an audition, you send it in, and don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. Send it, forget it. Keep going to the next. Keep going to the next. You'll probably not get a lot of responses, which is normal. But then you get that one, and you're like, all right. And then you keep going because then you can get another one. And you might have a drought, and that's completely okay.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Yeah, basically Dory. Basically, you're like Dory. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Here's a
well,
role.
dude, to that point, do you feel, or obviously, for the new, or I guess, especially the small projects, getting these unknown voices, how are you, or what's your thought? I mean, on, because a lot of course, big action, big budgeted animations and video games tend to kind of get celebrities or stars to voice these characters. What's kind of your take on that, as far as, well, you get the viability and of course the marketability of having that versus having an unknown or somebody that name that you wouldn't recognize?
Yeah, that's actually going on with Space Jam right now because one of the Space Jam ads on social media, on Twitter, I saw had like Bugs Bunny. I don't remember who the other was, but it had 3 of the characters, and then I can't remember the actress's name offhand. I'm sorry, but for Lola Bunny, and she was the only one whose name was listed, and everyone's like, just because she's a celebrity, what about all
Yeah.
the others? They're actors too. They're valid. They might not be huge celebrities, but they should still be recognized for their roles, after all.
Yeah. Like I said, I get the studios trying to market it and everything like that. And it's interesting because there's a lot of another person I really like that I hadn't really realized was so into voice acting is Mark Hamill, who does
Yes.
who does the voice of the Joker in a lot of the animated Batman films. And it was interesting because I saw an interview that he had done and how he's just so enamored with creating a voice and the whole process of developing a voice. But you never would have known that was, I don't think I would have recognized the obviously he's getting into character and that, this and that, but would have recognized so much the voice. And that's somebody that really loves it because he's not speaking his voice per se, like you would recognize, say, with Toy Story, Tom Hanks and, oh man, I forget his name.
Tim Allen?
Tim Allen, who did Buzz Lightyear. Even though they were doing a character, you still recognize, okay, that's Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting hearing him talk about the art of voice acting and creating a character.
Yes, because everyone thinks Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. So when you hear him doing his Joker voice, like when I was watching the Batman animated series back in the 90s, and I heard the Joker, like, wow, that person's really good. Then I see it's Mark Hamill, like, wait, Luke Skywalker?
Luke Skywalker.
It's a surprise, but it's so cool. You're like, oh, wow.
And it's interesting because he said, like I said, it was kind of a handicap for him, because like directors would think, oh, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and him being able to do voices and things like that. So do you do, like a singer, do you do like warm-ups to get your voice kind of in, in the ready mode?
Oh, absolutely. I do, even when I'm setting up my booth, I do a 10-minute vocal warm-up, which is a lot of like, and I follow it on YouTube, and then I do some tongue twisters, and then I do Tuvan throat singing warm-up. And that way it exercises, I get everything up, I can have my range, so I can go kind of up here if I need to, kind of high, or if I have to pull back a bit, or drop really low, I can do that and just go, which even a year ago, that last part just now, I wouldn't have been able to have done if I hadn't learned some of the things that I learned. Because if you're not careful, you can really mess things up. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. No, your voice is your livelihood for sure. So you definitely gotta take care of it. I know, like I said, a lot of singers, they'll drink tea or tea and lemon to really kind of loosen up their voice and stuff like that. So you definitely want to take care of it. But I always, like I said, there are just some people's voices that just like I said, just fit so well with, like you said, being a voice either on radio, a DJ, or a voice actor or something like that. Their voice is just so distinctive. Did you feel like that was something that you needed to kind of have initially, or that I can develop whatever voice? I didn't need to have a deep voice for people to say, oh, you need to be doing some voice work or things like that.
I always thought, I needed that deep, polished radio voice if I wanted to get into voiceover. And my voice, I always thought was like too high or nasally or this, that, and like no one would ever hire me for that. Turns out, yes, they would. Because I always thought, okay, they have this voice, they have this voice, they have really specific sound, and me, I'm just regular old Robert who is just a regular old voice. But surprise, surprise.
Well, like I said, I think it lends, well to what you do, and it gives you a range. Like I say, somebody, of course, and like I said, I love voices, and I love, like I said, but some voices just kind of lend to a certain role, I guess, per se. Like take James Earl Jones. He did Darth Vader, and he did, Mufasa on Simba. But that kind of, I couldn't see him in, say, doing Simba's voice, or Simba's voice, or other than that. You see what I mean? Some voices kind of lend to that gravitas of a role that they play.
Yeah, I'd never expect to have like James Earl Jones be an like a high energy anime character. I wouldn't see that. I mean, you never know, but at the same time, it could happen.
But it's interesting. But see, and I guess that goes into one, wanting to try it, and two, being able to pull it off. Because another thing, like I said, and just talking about this kind of made me remember it. But another thing that we got into talking about when I had Scott, Christian Saba on, was he had oh man, what's the actor's name? He plays in Lord of the Rings. Uh, uh, Ian McKellen.
Okay.
The British actor Ian McKellen.
Mhm.
And although the character he was voicing fit his voice, they said they wanted him to do like a musical segment sing. So it was really kind of, interesting, saying, oh, this serious actor is not going to want to do like a silly cartoon musical style, thing. But he did it and he pulled it off. So it was just interesting. But normally, like I said, you would think that a person's, especially when you got a visual or idea of them with their voice, what they would pull off. And it seems, like I said, you tend to love being able to have that range of, I can get to the super silly or the, the child character, the high pitched voice or the low pitched voice. That seems to be what you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's so much fun being able to go from all over the, hey guys, come on, we gotta go, come on team, let's go, to the, okay son, listen, I know things are tough right now. And it's all, just the whole spectrum is fun because it's all about the play.
Yeah. Now, do you think it's easier when you're a voice actor and you're not in front of the camera per se, or you're not on stage? Do you feel like you would have that same kind of, not self-consciousness about, like I said, oh, nobody's going to see me, so I can just act any kind of way or this and that, as opposed to if I was on stage, would I be, or out visible or doing it, kind of live in front of like 10,000, 20,000 people or whatnot? Would you be the same? Do you think you would have that same kind of freedom and carefreeness to do all the kind of silly voices?
It depends on the role, because like when I was doing improv and I would perform on stage, that was free reign. It was like, whatever, just go. You have your idea, people are interacting and you just do it. For one of the scenes I did, I was trying to learn how to tie my shoelaces, and I literally threw my shoe across the stage. And there was the one team was like pro Velcro, the other is pro shoelaces, and I'm just there like listening back and forth, like freaking out on stage, and that was hilarious, and it worked. The whole scene worked. And in voiceover, when you're in the booth, yeah, you can still do that. But of course, if I have to be a very like proper Shakespearean, then like you can only do so much on stage, but in the booth you can still have more fun with it.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, with your personality, do you like the more outlandish kind of characters, or do you like kind of doing the more reserved type of voices where you kind of have to do, or kind of have that reserved type of feel? Or do you like just like getting zany with the characters and just letting them run loose?
The zany ones do tend to be more fun. I do love those because the animation voice, I get to be animated and have to be careful not to bump my microphone when I'm like, hey, or whatever it is I have to. The reserved ones are more of a challenge, especially if you're just trying to be conversational, because you're then conversational how? conversational over tea, over beer, and sometimes you can be a little how do I say this? But that all just comes with the practice and whatnot.
Yeah. So, kind of moving forward, like I said, we've and for like I said, people just jumping on and tuning in. Again, I'm with my special guest and friend, Mr. Robert Jonathan, the animation voice. Definitely, if you're working on an indie project, he is always available for sure. I think I'd like to try it. I don't know if I'd be good at it, but I always said if I would do animated short, I'd at least throw in some, do some, stand-in voices. Like I
Hey,
said,
go for it.
when I was younger, of course, like I said, when I was younger, playing with my toys and stuff, I was really uninhibited and, would come up with all kinds of character voices and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that. But I don't know. I guess I gotten a little more reserved now. And,
You can still do it. You can still go around. Just have fun with it. That's the important
uh,
thing.
and see, I was like that, but
That's
see, I've always was one of those ones, like you said. I felt like, and even now, I feel like my voice sounds like I got a cold, and just when I talk, that's how I envision my voice when I'm speaking on recording and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I
Oh yeah.
fun though. It seems like a very, and I gotta tell people, go back and watch all the behind the scenes, because like I said, you'll get all the good juicy stuff
Mhm.
is there. But it seems like such a fun process, albeit long and like I said, a lot more work than what you would think it is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I know the joy is seeing it all come together and
Yes.
actually seeing what you're, seeing your voice, what you created, tied to a character, be it in video game or an animation. Finally seeing it on screen and stuff.
Yes, that literally just happened with me over the past couple of months. I auditioned for a role in a Final Fantasy X2 parody. I got a role and I submitted my lines, had a ton of fun reading the script, cracking up it with the script, and submitted my lines, and it just released on on the 16th. So a couple of days ago, got to
Wow.
watch it like, oh, so this is what it looks like all together. And that's me. That's me. That's my character being all silly. And you just be like, this is why you do it,
Yeah.
because boom, you have that fun and everyone
Yeah.
working together and putting it all together. You're like, yeah.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, it's such a long process, especially if you're on like a film
Mhm.
or even a video game project nowadays. They're such long projects.
Oh yeah.
But finally see, and sometimes you don't see how all the pieces are coming together. You're doing the voice separately. You may see like some animatics or things like that, but for the most part, you may be reading from a script, and until you see it all together and how it's all put together, I'm sure that's such a uh, satisfying feeling when you see
Yes.
everything put together and all the hard work that people have done to put it together.
Yes. You really start to appreciate all the details of getting it put together. Some of the projects that are coming out later this year that I recorded for last year. Sometimes it just takes that long
Yeah,
because it could be any number of things. Life can get in the way, or
yeah,
or a lot of student projects.
yeah.
Those can just take time, but when they come out, you're like, "This is cool. Here it is."
So for the most part, are you recording at home in your own studio and then sending them, or have you done a mix of, okay, they want you to come into the studio, their studio, and their sound booth and stuff, or how's it been for you doing a lot of the recordings that you're doing?
I've been strictly remote, especially because I started getting into it heavier when
Yeah,
COVID hit. Go
yeah,
figure.
yeah,
So then all the studios were shut down and had to have your home set up.
Yeah.
And that's primarily what I do. A lot of the indies, a lot of the indie studios, animators, games, it's all remote because you might have someone who's based in like England who's running it, and obviously I can't jump on a plane and fly to England to record anytime soon.
Hey, we need you to come up to England and record this little bit here.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool. Love to do that one day, sure. But for now, yeah, everything's in the home studio, the home booth.
Yeah.
Record it, make it sound nice, send it out, or whatever the specs are. Respect
Yeah.
the specs. Hey,
Yeah.
send it completely raw. Okay, you send it out, and they take care of it.
Gotcha. I hear you. Well, like I said, we've had a great little time. Man, I tell you, always the time flies so quick.
I know, right?
Going through these interviews. But again, I do try and be respectful of my guests' time and everything. Plus, it gives me an opportunity to have them back on the show. Definitely make sure that you check out Robert's work. I want to throw, and all this information will be in the show notes for sure. So make sure you hop over to the YouTube channel, check out the episode and all the show notes. But you can connect with Robert on his LinkedIn page, which is how I got connected with him, of course. Robert Jonathan, the animation voice. Make sure you connect with him there. Also on Twitter, you can find them, Red Leader 327, and his Instagram page to check out more of his work as well. Definitely, I would highly recommend him if you have any type of indie project or project that you're working on where you need some great character voice. Make sure you reach out to my friend Robert for sure. I'm definitely going to be keeping him in mind as I'm putting projects together myself. So this has been Robert. I appreciate you taking so much of your precious time to be on the show. Like I said, I know
Thank you,
this
John.
was
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
now. Thank you. Like I said, you get such, and we've said this through the show, but you get such an appreciation for the art because it is an art in and of itself. Most people just think that, oh, okay, I'll just come in, get in front of the mic, and blah blah blah, read my lines and this and that.
A lot of people do, and then you start to realize, oh, this is tougher than I thought. And it is. And it's completely okay to feel that way or to record your voice and be like, I sound like that?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the learning process. Everyone who starts that way, and you just keep at it, you keep getting better, and it more fun it happens.
Well, I think you made a good point. If you go into it, especially for more animated, depending on the role, of course, or the character, of course. But if you go into it with a just a kind of a freestyle, and like you said, it's realize that it's an iterative process, and it's a kind of a discovering who that character is, because ultimately, whether it's an inanimate object such as a car or animate object, there's a character behind it. So you have to find and discover who that character is and find the right voice for it. That's why I say it's an art form, in and of itself, because it does, even like I said, if you watch the behind the scenes, even the stars that they're hiring them because that's they're well known and that's their voice, they're still going through a lot of iterative projects or process on developing the sound. And that's why, like I said, it's really great watching, even the big stars like, Tom Hanks, Tim Allen in the booth recording, because they're still getting, even though you recognize their voice, they're still getting from the actors or the directors, hey, we need you to, kind of sound like this, or you sound too much like this character or this character. So it's such a great thing to see how it all comes together.
Yes.
For sure. Again, Robert, I want to thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time to be on the show. Thank you for being a part of the Color Motion family. And I so look forward to having you back on, because I know by the time I have you back on, you'll be doing some other big projects.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
can't wait to hear your voice
Thank you,
on
Don.
some big Netflix stuff or big film stuff coming up. I know that's coming down the pipe.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. But again, if you are working on a project, please make sure that you check out Robert, because he does some funny voices, does a lot of great characters, and definitely would be an asset to your project. Like I said, I'm definitely going to keep you in mind when I'm starting to lay out my animated project here.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate you contacting me. Enjoyed our connections, and this has been a lot of fun today. It has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Everybody, again, all this information will be in the show notes. Robert, I'm going to ask you to hang around just a little bit back in the green room while I close out the show, so we could talk a little more. But again, I thank you so much for blessing us with your presence and your skills.
Glad to have been here. Thank you so
All
much, Don.
right. Everybody, let's give him a round of applause and look to have him back on soon. All right. Guys, like I said, this was a good one, because like I said, he's the first person I've had on that's a voice actor. Different perspective on not only industry as a whole, but just uh, his perspective on the the need for more diverse characters and diverse voice actors on the show. So I was always looking forward to having him on, and that was a big reason why I wanted to bring him on for sure. And definitely, well, he'll probably be doing in character, so you'll have to look at the screen credits to know that it's him. So unless he does his voice, which you probably still have to look at the screen credits to recognize the voice. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more of his work and seeing him in some big projects coming up. And so glad to be able to call him a friend for sure. And looking forward to having him back on the show. Everybody, this has been, like I said, a great show. I've enjoyed doing it. And as always, it goes by so quickly, for sure. Uh, Make sure that again, if you are tuning in to LinkedIn or Facebook, make sure that you do hop on over to my YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you're notified of when great new content comes on. Able to check out, excuse me, able to check out this episode and all the other past great episodes I've had on the show. Again, super excited to be unveiling soon the new studio, the new intro, all the new stuff I have planned for the show. In the upcoming weeks. I don't think I was telling the guests, I don't think next week, but the week after, I think will be the premiere of the new look of the show. Like I said, I got a lot of great new things planned, a lot of stuff that I think will make the show really much more engaging and fun for sure. So, super excited for that. Next week, it's going to be another great episode. Let me take this down because I know this doesn't come down for sure. All right. Next week, it's going to be another great episode. So looking forward to having my guest and friend on, Mr. Jerry Bryce, Executive Animation Production Manager with Al Roker Entertainment. I didn't know Al Roker did any animation. I mean, I knew he had a entertainment company, but I didn't know. And he's a big animation and cartoon fan. Like I said, he like me is a Peanuts fan, so he got a chance to interview Charles Schultz. Or I don't think he did, but he's a big Peanuts fan, and so looking forward to that. So, Mr. again, Jerry Bryce, been in the industry in a good while. I won't say a long time, but a long time and a good while. So super excited to have him on and sit and chop it up with him about the animation industry and where it's going and what he does. So again, I appreciate everyone joining in as usual. You are such loyal viewers, both live and on the replay. And I so value and appreciate you for that, which is why I work so hard to make this the best show that I can and continue to do that moving forward. So with that, I hate to close it out, but all good things come to an end sometime. So with that, I want to close this episode out, put it in the can, and make sure again that you join us next week because it's going to be a good one. All right. Have a great rest of the day and have a great weekend, everybody. Catch you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.